Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to respond to a Reddit post from a user who is highly educated but not having any luck landing a job. So let's go ahead and get right into it. He starts with, I graduated 5 years ago with a master's, started the program immediately after finishing undergrad as my undergrad degree doesn't have any good job prospects, and I'm still here on the grind looking for a career in my field. After graduating, I took the opportunity to teach abroad for a year, continued working in education for a year after I returned, then started working as a freelance copy editor when I realized I needed a more calm environment. While I like what I do now, I really don't make enough and the work can be sporadic. I feel like I've been looking forever. I rarely get interviews, and when I'm told why I wasn't considered / followed up on for a position, it's either that I'm overqualified or underqualified. I know that my resume is solid, and my cover letters are good, both from as many people telling me such, plus the fact that a lot of the copy editing I do is literally polishing resumes and cover letters. Whenever I do get interviews, they go well, and people who I've done practice interviews with have said I interview very well. Nothing out of the ordinary comes up in a Google search of my name, and I have a clean record. People in my field have suggested getting an internship to increase my experience, but most internships want current students who will work for credit rather than pay. My school's career service has been pretty useless when I try to go to them for job search advice. They really only work on stuff like resume help and practice interviews. At this point, I wonder if hiring managers just look at the date I graduated with my degree, see that I haven't really worked in my field, and toss my application in the reject pile. Is it possible to get a job in my field after working unrelated jobs for 5 years? Should I pivot my focus? I want a career I can feel proud of and not feel like I wasted my time in graduate school. But as time goes by, I doubt myself more and more. Let me start out by saying, dude, I get the frustration. Nothing tests a person's patience more than waiting for a call back on a job, and then if the answer is no, it makes it all worse. So I totally empathize with you. We've all been there, and it's a frustrating situation to be in for sure. So don't worry too much about your resumes and cover letters at this point. It sounds like you've polished them enough, and to be honest, there's no such thing as a perfect resume. I will say, though, it might be a good idea to reach out to someone in those places that you've applied to or a place in the industry and ask someone in HR what they like to see on a resume. I know HR or some HRs typically use software that picks out keywords on resume, and that's how they narrow down who gets selected for interviews. Your resume actually might be fine, but it's missing some, I guess you could say, keywords that they're not picking up on. I used to supervise an intern program, and the requirement of interns still being in school or within 1 year of graduation is pretty standard in most fields. And unfortunately, you're kind of in a bind with the overqualified, underqualified situation, but that doesn't mean you're out of the game. How much experience do you have in that field, and how much are the jobs you're applying to asking for? Overqualified is typically code for we can't pay you what you're worth, so they don't want to waste their time hiring someone who isn't going to stay with them in the long term, or somebody that's going to be easily bored, and which in that case means the job quality they fear isn't going to be as good as it could be because you're bored. For jobs that are saying you're underqualified, find out what qualifications you're missing and ask them the best place to learn those skills. You may have to work part-time in the field in a specialist role to pick up that experience. You could also volunteer or job shadow. Ask any of those places that you've applied to that said no. You said that they don't want paid internships, but if you asked them about unpaid internships, again, it might not even have to be a formal internship. If it's a small enough company, they may be on board with someone coming in to help out and not having to pay them. So see if that is an option. I have a client that's in the same boat as you. Couldn't find a job in his field after graduating, and 12 years later still hasn't found a job in his field. Which, and I'm not saying that to like discourage you, because I know you've said it's been like 5 years for you. But the number one question he always got in his interviews was, what have you done to expand your knowledge and experience in this field? So I guess I'd ask the same question for you, is what have you done to expand your knowledge in your field now that you're out of school? And like you, interning for him hasn't really been a viable option as well. But he does, volunteer. He does his own field work and research. networks like crazy with people in his industry through Facebook, LinkedIn. He pays for himself to go to professional conferences and talk to people in the industry. And he's just gained a lot of experience and connections that way. But he's now to the point where he kind of just does his own thing in the field and has his own kind of side hustle that he does. And he's totally happy doing that. It's not his end-all be-all. And while getting a job in the field for him now would be nice, it's not his main goal. He's just really happy being able to do himself and to work for himself and really kind of put out the content that he really wants to. So I'm not sure if this field is a passion for you or if it's just something you've always wanted to do. But think about skills that you've learned or you've picked up, through education, or through your master's program or whatever that, can be transferred into other fields. You might have to branch out. Are there similar fields or jobs in a similar field that you can do that are related but maybe not exactly the same? I guess in a nutshell, what I'm saying is don't give up on working in your field, but don't limit yourself to just being in that field too. Don't allow your satisfaction in your professional life be predicated on a specific type of job. You could get a job in that field and then you hate your boss and coworkers, in that case you'd be miserable anyway. Or you could get a job outside your field and love your boss, and you might like your coworkers and actually just enjoy going to work, even though it's not exactly what you want to do. Finding a job in the field you went to school for is actually pretty rare these days, especially since college really doesn't do a good job of preparing people for working in many specific fields. So to get that experience and satisfaction, you're probably going to have to go outside the traditional ways of breaking into the field if that's what you're kind of set on doing. The good news is that there's a lot of ways to gain experience and connections through trainings, conferences, social media. And honestly, don't let the value of what you bring to the table be determined by some guy in an HR department who doesn't even know anything about you. Remember, your career fulfillment is a lot more than just working in a specific field. Anyways, I hope this helps. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're watching this video and you've enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe, and I will speak with you soon.